All right, welcome back. We are now on the elephant in the room portion, college football segment of the show. And we're going to start off with, y'all already know who, that little team, that Cal College across the state, Iron Bowl week, going to be in Voodoo Land, night kickoff, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Alabama Crimson Tide looking to win and further increase their playoff chances going on against the Auburn Tigers. Fellas, we know how this game is, especially in Jordan-Hare, one of my favorite venues in college football, may I add. Still Roll Tide. What are we expecting to see from this game on Saturday night?
I started off.
Oh, yes, sir. That's what I like to see right there. I know it's Iron Bowl week.
I started off. Now, with Bama going to Jordan-Hare, it don't matter if Auburn hadn't won a game in 30 years, if they undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Auburn is very dangerous at home against Bama. When it's their last game of the year, they have absolutely nothing to lose. They don't have a head coach. Their coaches don't know if they're going to be back next year. Hell, the players don't even know if they're going to be on the team. If they might transfer.
Cam Coleman at Tuscaloosa.
Possible. So you're looking at a team, they don't know what's next after this game. So it's going to be a very loud, hostile environment. Then instead of at 2:30, it's at 6:30. And it already get dark at 2 o'clock. So it's going to be even darker at 6:30 on the plains. You know they're going to be loud. It's going to be sold out. It's the last game of the year. Far as Bama. Defensively, the defense is going to be there. I'm not worried about the defense. The only offense that Auburn has is Cam Coleman. You stop Cam Coleman, you're going to win the game. Offensively, Ty Simpson. We need the Ty Simpson.
Right
we need the Ty Simpson that was on the road against Georgia. We need the Ty Simpson that was on the road against South Carolina, against Tennessee. We need him this game. Because if we get him this game, I don't think this game will be close. Also, we need Ryan Williams. Jerry Bernard is a little banged up. Now I know he's gonna play Saturday, but we still got a possible. We guaranteed this game, and if we win, we guaranteed the SEC championship. So in all honesty, Bernard only got one more game guaranteed. But Ryan, if you want to go ahead and shut up all the criticism, this is the game to show up for on the road, in-state game at night. He got to show out. Daniel Hill, they need to start Daniel Hill in my opinion. Literally all Daniel Hill has to do, get the ball, lean over, he's going to get 2 yards off the rip. But offensively as a whole, they just got to go out and just play their game. The past few weeks, I think that they got away from what really worked. And they were just playing methodical football. Because Bama can start at the 1 yard line in their opponent's territory, literally just go down the field, throw it to the left, throw it to the right, run it, throw it. Just very methodically go down there and put up 7.
You mean in Alabama on territory?
Yeah, my bad.
Opponent territory. We already in the end zone pretty much. But I
get my bad. Yeah, my bad. I'm tripping. I'm just excited for it. They just got to go back to what they was doing. Just attacking the perimeter and just playing Bama football. But the only group that I'm worried about is the offensive line. Playing on the road in a hostile environment. And Auburn has a great defense. I ain't gonna lie. That's who's been keeping them in these games all season is the defense. So if the OL if the OL can play well, Ty Simpson do his thing, it's not gonna be close. That's if the offense come out and do what they're supposed to do. They come out, go ahead, score that first drive, stop them, score again, gonna take the out of the stadium.
Yes, leave no hope. And like I said, you know how them shows, they be having them flashbacks when they go back to what somebody previously said. I'm going to just go back to what I previously said. Leading up, when we was talking about the remainder of the schedule during Oklahoma week, and we see how that game went. We ain't even, did nobody as we recording that week after that game. I understand why. But,
Can I say something about the game?
yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't even mad at that loss because looking at it, Oklahoma, they scored all their points off of
Alabama layups,
turnover.
pretty much assists.
So I'm like,
yeah.
You only lost the game because you turned the ball over three times. So
That's it.
if you didn't turn the ball over, you possibly could have had a shutout. But yeah, that's
yeah. But like I was saying, when I said that game, and I was saying basically looking at the outlook of the next two games, we had East Illinois. We all knew what that was going to be. But this game, like I said during that week leading up to the Oklahoma game, they don't put it together in any other game. Regardless, this needs to be the game where they need to put away. They need to get out hot and heavy early, like you said, Fair. Take the air out of this stadium, please. If you can go up 17-0 early, or even a 21-3, something like that, before the second quarter even start, you on pretty good track to and just maintain it from there. Because like you said, especially if you put Auburn in a situation to where they basically have to pass, and we got guys that can get out the quarterback, we got a back end that can cover. You know what I'm saying? Everything coming together as far as the defense go. We in pretty good shape. And just put Ty Simpson out there. Hey, look, control the clock. Let's just move these chains. Go down here. I can't even say get a field goal because the backup kicker just as worse as Talty. So we just in the pickle when it can hope the game don't come down to a field goal. But the way fate works sometimes, Connor Talty might be the most hated man in Tuscaloosa right now. But if he go out here and walk off Auburn in Auburn, he ain't gonna have to pay for nothing for the rest of his life as long as he in Tuscaloosa. So it's just like, but we do not want it to come down to that type of scenario.
To that situation right there.
Last week, they went out here like they let the committee get in their heads and talking about run the ball, basically. You ran the ball but it's Eastern Illinois, though. Like, if you can go out here and get 150, 175 yards versus Auburn, okay, cool. But anybody go get 250 versus Eastern Illinois as far as a SEC powerhouse, like, come on, man. Let's be 100% honest. What you was about to say, Dre?
And my biggest issue, and I think we kind of scarcely talked about it, but I didn't really say what I wanted to say. My biggest issue with that is, and what I think what troubles me the most about tomorrow's game is, you took much needed momentum and footing from your quarterback who not really struggled the game before, but didn't have the offense that they had been seeing the last couple of weeks. The Oklahoma game, and I'm like, Finn, going back to the Oklahoma game, like, LSU did the same thing the week before that Oklahoma came in and did. And the difference, going back all the way to the Florida State game, is that we did not pick up on the pressure very well. That's the parallels between what I said about the first half of the Florida State game and the second half of the Florida State game. The same thing that I'm saying about the game against LSU versus the game against Oklahoma. If we don't pick up the pressure when teams like Oklahoma, teams like LSU, man, I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. Finn actually was more right than what we wanted to agree with a couple weeks ago with the LSU game. If they had any type of offense that could have stopped our defense, then it may be a different game. But
see, that's the thing.
The same thing could be said about Oklahoma, because I didn't feel like they had any more offense than LSU had, but they capitalized off our turnovers and they didn't give the ball back to us. So what scares me the most about Saturday's game is not going on the road. It's not the pressure of the committee. It's not the game itself. It's what we just put out on the field the last 2 weeks. How does that translate to what we're trying to do Saturday? Because you put more pressure on them by not preparing them in weeks before this game, up to this game. You knew 3 weeks ago the pressure that was going to be on the Iron Bowl. We've been talking about it for weeks. That game is going to decide our fate. Whether we had one loss right now or two losses, that game is going to decide our fate. The mere fact that now, instead of like the casual Southern fans that we are, you kind of go through that morning and you go get some breakfast and you try to make that time go by, and then all of a sudden it's 11 o'clock and maybe you start eating some Thanksgiving leftovers, and then you start warming up the rotel and stuff around 12. Well, by 12, 1 o'clock, you're barely watching the Ohio State and Michigan game because it has no interest to you. By 2:30, all that anxiety is finally rushed out as a fan, as a player, as a coach, as somebody that's been inside that both stadiums on the Iron Bowl. 6:30 is much more anxiety than you will ever have to go through for a game of that magnitude.
You're waiting all day. You're waiting all day.
You're waiting all day.
What that pressure is, can, or will do for both of those teams is going to be big. But I think more than anything, out of the tail of the tape for the two quarterbacks, if they do start and go with Deuce Knight, there's more pageantry and pressure on him than it is for Ty. So I think, even though you're Deuce and you can kind of come out and have fun, it's not like the Bo Nix game that we went and saw a couple years ago where you could go have fun, cut it loose, and not worry about it because you got the backing of your own family. Nah, Deuce Knight got to go out and prove something if he wants to keep and hold that quarterback job.
And it's funny that you brought up the Bo Nix situation because also, and then we bring up, guess what happened in that game as well? 2 turnovers by Alabama that pretty much gave Auburn 2 touchdowns that they shouldn't have had. Basically, outside of, even if you just take one away, Alabama wins that game. So, but yeah, with that, as far, like I said, the running game, like we ain't got to go out here running no 250 plus 300. Like we just needed to be something enough to keep the chains moving, make the 5, 6, 7 yard runs early can turn into 10, 15, 20 yards later in the game when that defense is worn down. As far as the pass go, Cuevas was a big help in the Oklahoma game. Didn't play last week. Don't think he'll probably be available this week. Hopefully he will be. But get these tight ends involved. I know this is the offense where the tight ends thrive. Let's get these tight ends going. Let's design some plays for these tight ends. We see some of these receivers act like they can't get open. Ryan Williams, what are you gonna do, man? Like we said, like Ryan Williams, this can be a legacy game for you. This is an Iron Bowl, like, you know what I'm saying? You an in-state kid. You could have went to Auburn after Coach Saban retired, but you didn't. You stayed and stuck around. So it's just like, all right, Horton, what you got for us? Brooks, we know what you can do, and all these other guys, Rico Scott. Like when y'all number get called, can y'all make plays? Offensive line. Can we get push up front? Because Auburn always has great defensive line. Can we get a push up front outside of just pass pro? Can we get some good protection in the run, or good blocking in the run game to like I said, to get that push? All I'm saying is, Jam, man, we love you, man, but hey, it ain't it no more, man.
Push him to the side.
We need to go. We need to have a deer sighting, like you said with my boy Daniel Downhill. Kevin Riley can't pass block, so that's why he's not in as much. Same thing, and Richard Young just got lost in the shuffle, man. So it's just like Daniel Hill and a little bit of and maybe Kevin Riley when we're not running or not passing the ball, but Daniel Hill and Jam when we know we passing the ball. You can put Jam because Jam's still good running a little flat route for Ty Simpson to him to check it down and get, like I said, an easy, quick 5, 6, 7 yards in that regard. But as far as running the ball with Jam, we can't do it unless we at the 1 yard line, and we know all he got to do is fall forward half the time, and he can get that. But yeah, can we have a balanced attack or somewhat of a balanced attack, control the clock, get a big lead early, and basically hold them out of the end zone? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's the Iron Bowl, so I won't be surprised if Auburn gets a touchdown on defense, but still, can you hold that off? Can you still keep that momentum down to where that doesn't even matter? So like I said, like as far as the score, I'm done picking blowouts because every time I picked a blowout, it ended up being a close game. But obviously this podcast is centered around Alabama football, so we gonna go with a clean sweep and say Alabama for the win. I don't have a score, but if you guys got a score, y'all can go ahead and announce a score before we move on.
Just win, baby.
Yeah.
Anytime they play at Auburn, home it'll be different, but Jordan Hare.
Nah.
Well, it was one year Jordan Hare. I know they went out there and beat
No.
the brakes off of them. But yeah, nine times out
Give
of
me-
10, more than usual, is a close game.
Give me y'all keep going. Give me 2 seconds. I gotta run downstairs and get something from my pops. I'm gonna
Alright.
mute my stuff though.
Yeah, no, I want to hear. Hey, Rodney, no, just playing. Then we gonna go on. We gonna hold it down. We could start tape low keep it. We keep going, and then we gonna go on next to the big game up north. Big noon kickoff. Michigan, who's beaten Ohio State 4 games in a row. Oh, and may I add, before we transition into that, Alabama is on 5 straight. Now we remember in our lifetime, Auburn beat Alabama 6 times in a row. Now we trying to see if Auburn can beat Alabama can beat Auburn in our lifetime 6 times in a row. All right, close that out and move back on to Ohio State and Michigan. It's been like I said, I think it's been 4 years in a row. They didn't play in the pandemic year, so every year, 2000, like I said, 2021 the last year has been 4 in a row. What are we expecting from this game? Michigan really don't have too much to play for, as they didn't last year, but they still went out there, was the more physical team in Columbus and pulled that game out 13-10. You've seen the post-game scuffle with the planting of the flag at midfield last season by Michigan. So I'm pretty sure Ohio State is gonna have extra motivation for that. So what are we looking forward to this year's game with a Michigan team that also really doesn't have too much to play for versus the defending champs in Ohio State this time?
I'm looking to see a hard fought physical game. I don't expect a blowout. And I'm actually leaning towards Michigan. I'm gonna tell you why. Michigan
Yeah,
has
let me
beaten
hear
what 4 years in a row, right?
Yes, sir.
And in my opinion, last year's Ohio State team, I don't think that they're better than. I don't think the team this year is better than
Last year's
last year's
team when they
team.
had all them guys,
I don't.
Keshawn
I
Junkins,
don't see
Jeremiah
it.
Smith,
Yeah, I
Trevon
mean, granted,
Henderson,
you
yeah,
have
Meke
Jeremiah
Ibuka.
Smith. You got Jeremiah Smith. You got Sayin. You got Tate. Defensively, you got Downs. But like I said,
No Jack
rivalry game,
Sawyer.
no Jack Sawyer, and you haven't really played anybody since Texas week 1. And now you got a Michigan team who's only 9-2, not really in the playoff hunt, I don't think. And
Let
now,
me go check their record.
and you at the big house, I don't see it. Michigan only lost 2 games.
Oh, they're 9-2. But
Yeah,
see,
but I don't see them
Michigan could possibly backdoor their way into a playoff spot, which is crazy.
playoff spot. Yeah,
And
with
Ohio State is a 10-point favorite, but I don't think they're
now,
getting in. Like,
Ohio State, they haven't been tested since Texas. That was week 1. So
yeah, they didn't look great in that game. They came out the victor. They won 14-7, but they didn't really look that great in that game.
and granted, even though not Texas, Michigan hasn't really played anyone, but that's due to the conference that they in. When it comes to Ohio State, that's gonna be a big one. Then they at home too, noon kickoff. I see Michigan winning a very close one.
I will say I won't be surprised if Michigan wins that game, but I'm gonna go. I think Ohio State finally puts that little losing streak to rest. It's gonna be a close game, like some majority, like except for one game. I think one game they played out of midst of this 4-game run that Michigan had. I think Michigan beat them like 45-22 or something like that. Outside of that, but relatively all these games, with the exception of that one, they've been close games. Like we said, the game last year was very slow, grinded out, 13-10, very sluggish. Like this is Bryce Underwood's first time in this game, so there's that. Another like a little legacy moment for him as well. A true freshman upsetting Ohio State. But the thing about him as well. The thing about it though is just like Ohio State, number 1 team in the country, going to the Big Ten championship, win or lose, I think. So Michigan really doesn't have too much to lose. Ohio State doesn't have too much to lose again, except for another year of no bragging rights. You're the defending champs. Like I said, you're going to the Big Ten. Win or lose this game, you're still going into the playoffs. So you're good. But I don't think they're just going to still just take the week off because of all those things in their favor. So I'm going to still go with Ohio State in that regard. But like I said, this is going to be a game that is going to come down to whoever can make a play with the ball, whoever got the ball last, whoever can make plays is going to win that game. I think, and I'll pick a score for this game. I'm going to go Ohio State. I'll go 24-20, Ohio State in this game.
Yeah, I see. I like Michigan, but like I said, it'll definitely be either between 3 to 7 point victory on each team. That's how I see it. What's the spread for this game? 10 point?
It's Ohio State -10. See, that's tricky because these are rivalry games. Throw the spread out the window. Last year, I want to say Ohio State was a 2-touchdown favorite. I want to say it was either 13.5 or 14 points last season, and they went out there and lost. They didn't even score 10 points. I mean, they didn't even score over 10 points. So there's that. So like I said, rivalry games, records, and point spreads and all that, they don't matter in this week. You know what I'm saying? So we can have a 1-11 Auburn. Auburn going to play like they've been undefeated the whole year. So there's that. So it's just like same with these two teams. It don't matter who's what. We just know these two teams going to show up and play. And then another, we're going to tell it back to the SEC because really all the bigger games are really as far as the rivalry games go. I know we got like a Pitt Miami. That's not really a rivalry. But we got Texas A&M in Texas Friday. I think that's a noon kickoff or 11 a.m. local time.
It's at night.
Oh, it's a night game?
It's a
night game? Friday night? Oh, so I ain't okay.
And they in Texas.
They are Austin. I think Texas A&M is the favorite though. Yeah, Texas A&M is 2.5. Oh yeah, I see 6:30 Friday night. Texas A&M is also, but see the thing about Texas A&M, if they lose this game, they don't go to the SEC championship, but they'll still probably get in the playoffs.
Now,
Texas on the other hand,
if you Texas A&M, well, we can break this game down, then go to that. Well, we can do that for Texas and Bama, because those are two that are favorites to go to the championship, right? If they win.
Yeah, so all Alabama got to do is win because Alabama they hold the strength of schedule over Georgia because theoretically, if you got the fourth hardest schedule in the country, you're supposed to have at least the amount of losses that Alabama has is 2. So yeah, versus Georgia who got the 12th. Yeah.
Well, I asked that question when they come back on too.
Yeah, but as far as that go, I mean, like I said, we low-key can stop this and then come back and wrap that up. I mean, and bring them back into the next topic for real. Like, because all you got to do is auto-edit this out. But it'll edit it out. I can cut it out myself. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, man. We'll come back. Yeah, we left off at we was about to get we left out Ohio State, Michigan. Now we on the Texas A&M, Texas. We stopped tape a little bit. It's just gonna merge into it. So what do we expect? I'm eating on camera. What do we expect in this game? We see Texas. Their season is pretty much lost. Like they can probably just another game where it's a rivalry game and we got bragging rights. Texas A&M needs this because if they win, they punch their ticket to the SEC championship game. So what are we seeing from this matchup in particular?
I want Texas A&M to win. To be honest, I do.
It'll be a good game. I think Texas will come out on fire, a lot of momentum because they're at home. So I expect Texas A&M I expect them to win. Go ahead and finish out the regular season 12-0. Now, I do want to pose this question. Would you let's just say you are a head coach of one of these. Let's just use down in Texas A&M. Those are the two that control their destiny in regards to going to the SEC championship. Knowing that you have the championship, the SEC championship, and then the playoffs, if you had the power or ability to skip it, would you skip it and go straight to the playoffs? or would you play then go into the playoffs? That's
See,
an interesting.
the thing about that is Alabama, like whoever, you're not going to get punished for losing your conference championship game and not get snubbed out of the playoffs. That's not going to happen unless you already got like 4 losses, which you shouldn't even be there anyway with 4 losses. Excuse me. So if Alabama were to lose that game, hypothetically, I think they would be playing in a first round matchup anyway. So I don't think it would really matter. Now Texas A&M is a different case. Texas A&M wins out, they're gonna get an automatic bye. We seen what happened with every team that was on a bye week last season in the inaugural 12-team playoff. Every team that had a bye lost. Georgia lost. Arizona State lost. Oregon went out there and got kicked around, lost. So there's that. So yes, and Alabama is ranked 10th. So from what it's looking like, Alabama might have to host. May potentially go on the road for the first round of the playoff or host a playoff game in the first round. So either way it goes if Alabama wins. Because I don't think they are moving past, I'll say 7 or 8. I don't think they're moving past, I don't think they're moving past 7. Even if they beat Texas A&M in the SEC championship game, I still see them just being at the 5 spot, 6 spot or something like that and still having to play in the first round. That's mine.
Oh no, they ain't.
Yeah, it's a best case scenario. I want Texas A&M to win. I just want to give Bama the least likely scenario to have to even be in the SEC championship and have to 50-50 shot that years ago winning the SEC meant you were going to the national championship. You know, of course that was BCS time, and then you go back a few years ago where we won the SEC championship. We played the team that we just beat for the SEC championship. We lose to them in the national championship. So it's like much to do about nothing. So playing in the SEC championship, I know we just recently won the SEC, but I mean, it's always fun and, it's somewhere you want to be, but the playoffs is kind of overlap that because now you're trying to send 3 or 4 teams from the SEC into the playoffs. And the only way to do that is for one of your best teams not to play in the SEC championship. To your question, I feel like if opting out was an option, it would be reflected upon negatively from the committee. So I wouldn't. I'm also glad that's not an option because more teams would do it, and it probably really would just screw it up more. But it is what it is, to be honest. Like, we in a spot, we got to win the next game, really, to secure our own future more than anything. Like, we really need to focus on the next game. But for Texas A&M and Texas, you got not really playoff hopes on Texas A&M side, but you got momentum. You got momentum issues because if you lose this game, you still make it to the SEC championship, and then you lose that one too. Like, you might be going to the SEC championship, but it's not looking. It ain't looking
you end the season losing 2 games in a row. Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing with Texas A&M. Yeah, that's my stick with that.
So what you got about it? I mean, you answered the question, but what do you think?
I would still play in it due to the fact of 1, momentum, and then 2, that like for Texas A&M, they're undefeated. Go in, beat Texas. It's hard for me to say this, but you'll handle business with Alabama. Now they'll be the top seed, so they'll have the first. So if I'm one of those top teams, one of those top 4, yeah, I would play that championship game just to have a little bit momentum, then have that week off, then play versus skipping it. Now I got 2 weeks off, then I go host the game versus a team that's already played 2 weeks back to back and they've got momentum. That'll pretty much hurt a team. And we saw that
with this too,
last year.
My thing with this too, though, is like, okay, you don't play you're not guaranteed. No win is guaranteed, but like, also you skip out on your conference championship let's just say you go one and done, and you didn't play in the conference championship. Now you don't have nothing to reflect. At least winning your conference, hey, this is okay. We did this. We won our conference. We made it to the playoffs. It didn't go in our favor, but hey, at least we can say we won our conference, and nobody else in the conference made it to the championship. So they can't have the bragging rights of winning the national championship, but we got bragging rights from winning the conference. So that's another thing to look at, is too. And then it's just from a competitive standpoint. Why would you want to sit out games? Like, right. Except for like a bowl game, you playing in the RL Carriers New Orleans Bowl, something like that. Then okay, I'm still not a fan of it, but I get it. But like, you don't just sit out a conference championship game, man. Like, nah, that ain't unheard of. But we see where college football is, the landscape of college football has gone. So even with a 14 playoff, so we had non-conference champions make the playoff. Alabama benefited from it in the BCS in the early phases of the CFB era. So can't really sit here and talk like that. But yeah, like, nah, don't sit out no conference championship game. And keeping the SEC, and we're gonna put a bow on that. We got another, in-state. Hey, this is close. It ain't as close, the closest proximity as far as rivals go, but it's pretty close. You got Athens versus Atlanta, Georgia versus Georgia Tech. They had an 8 overtime thriller last year on a Friday night. This year they're also playing on a Friday night. No, they're playing Friday afternoon. Sorry,
I went to work and came back. They were still playing.
Yeah, so. What are we looking for this game? Like I said, Georgia Tech wasn't even that great of a team last year, and they came 2-point conversions away from pulling off an upset and possibly holding Georgia out. This year, the team is a little better, but they lost to Pitt in embarrassing fashion, so they kind of like killed their playoff hopes. But
just lost. They still, home.
Yes, they can still go in this game and be like, yeah, finish. Have a little motivation. Man, all we had to do was just finish this game last year. Like I said, Georgia Tech is a mirror image of, if you hold a mirror up to Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, it's like that Spider-Man meme. They pointing at each other. They the same team. So what do we want to see from this game? Like, because I want to see an upset, honestly, because they were that close last year. I want to see if they can finish this year. That's all I'm gonna say.
I don't have my hopes up for Georgia Tech anymore. It's really just based off last week. Like,
yeah,
the loss at home last week to really put the nail in the coffin on their playoff chances really just kind of showed me, like, if they couldn't do that at home, let alone do they play at home against Georgia?
Yeah, they got Georgia at home this year. They got Georgia at home. No, I hope Georgia. Georgia Tech is at home this year.
I know, but what I'm saying is last week they lost at home and solidified, that they're not going to make the playoffs. And I don't think that bodes well, coming into this year's game. Georgia, since losing to us, has slowly just kept momentum. They haven't built, they haven't lost, they just kept momentum, right?
Stay steady.
It's typical Georgia pacing. Yeah, it's typical Georgia's pacing. Georgia's trying to pace themselves into an SEC championship. They, unlike Texas A&M or us, feel like win or lose SEC championship, they're going. They, for pride's sake and for their fan base, for Kirby and his mindset, they need to go to the SEC championship and win the SEC to prove dominance in the SEC. Even if you lose to Alabama, nonetheless, like, it's still tears to it. But, I just think that's what Georgia wants from this situation. So I really don't think that Kirby's going to take a team into Atlanta this weekend unfocused at all. And I expect Gunnar Stockton to put a game together that's going to outlast Haynes King. I expect, for there to be some problems to continue, kind of like we were talking about in the previous show, with egos and attitudes amongst so much talent, especially now that your playoff hopes are out of the door. How do you respond? Do you respond positively and try to go out and upset somebody else that's on the fringe of making the playoffs, your in-state rival, or do you lay down and let them beat you and keep on going on their way?
Like I said, if the game was like a runaway for Georgia last year, then yeah, I can kind of be like, man, Georgia just go out here probably win by 14, 17 points. Georgia Tech just, fight, but at the end, Georgia going to pull it off. But the way how that game went last year, I know every game be different. like I said, I'm pretty sure Georgia, even though they went how they went versus, I want to say it was Pitt. I just looked at the schedule. I think it was Pitt. Even though they look how they look, like I said, last year this team was 6-5 going into this game. So, and now they're still, like, even with that loss last week, they're still only 9-2 compared to Georgia's 10-1. So it's just like, so now you're feeling a little bit more confident, maybe more confident this year than you were last year heading into that game. And like, yeah, Georgia has gradually got better, but also Georgia still has, they still do Georgia tendencies. So it's just like, that's what I'm saying with this game. I can kind of foresee an upset if it happens. So I'm going to lean towards Georgia Tech getting the second chance to right that wrong from last year that they did not finish to this year. They can finish. Because, like, it's not going to affect Georgia. It might affect Georgia as far as, like, where they land in the playoffs as far as seeding goes, but Georgia's still going to make the playoffs. They're not going to leave Georgia out of the playoffs. Even SEC championship, Georgia's not going to go for the simple fact if A&M loses, they will go. But if Alabama wins and A&M wins, Georgia's out of it anyway because Alabama has a stricter schedule factor over Georgia, and then Texas A&M is undefeated in conference play. So there's that. But if one of these two teams lose, then obviously Georgia's going to get in. So there's that. But all Alabama got to do is win, and then Georgia got to just win and hope for other stuff. I mean, Georgia already played all their conference games, so they're 7-1 in conference play. So Georgia just got to all right, cool. Hope somebody loses. It ain't even a matter about winning. They just got to hope somebody loses for them to get in and get their chance at the SEC because they're still going to make the playoffs. And I hear what you're saying, Dre, but it's just like the 12 team is kind of like, I would per se watered it down a little bit. It's just like winning a division in the NFL. Yeah, but we've seen wild card teams make a Super Bowl. So yeah. So there's that. But you still want to, like you said, kind of have those bragging rights in case your season doesn't go the way it goes. Like not Pitt, but Georgia Tech. I don't know what Georgia Tech is, like ACC. I don't know what they are as far as ACC standings, but they can at least still come out of this season saying, "Hey, we won the ACC championship." If they make it there, so that's my whole thing.
They fourth in the ACC.
Okay, so never mind.
As far as that matchup, Georgia only seems to forget how to play football when they play one team, and that's Alabama. With that being said,
psychological advantage.
With that being said, on Friday, I expect Georgia to handle business. Since they played against Alabama, they've been on a streak and they have improved. Kirby is still continue to do more with less, and this Georgia team is very scrappy. So they continue to get better, and they're scrappy. I don't see them losing Georgia Tech. I see them closing out the season. I think they'll win by, I'd say, 2 touchdowns. And they'll sit comfortably in the playoffs. So,
yeah,
Kirby them with the momentum, and Georgia Tech.
But here's the thing with Georgia too, though. Georgia's ranked 4th. If Georgia, if both teams win, A&M and Alabama, and if they keep the seed, well, no, because where the chips fall, that's where you fall. So Georgia can possibly still end up with a first round bye. Like they're 4th right now, they're number 4 right now. So Georgia can still, and we seen what happened last year when they had a bye week. So there's that with the same quarterback. Granted, Notre Dame was a better team, better defense than they were last year, and all that good stuff. But hey. Does Georgia see that having all that time off between not even playing in the SEC championship this year potentially to now going into the second week, the quarterfinals of the playoff? That's like, I want to say a 5-week stretch of no football. So yeah. So how is Kirby Smart going to keep that team focused and ready to play, especially knowing what happened last season? Yes.
That's
hard. So that is a challenge within itself. That is a challenge within itself right there. So, and then the last matchup, the only reason I wanted to cover this because, like I said, this team can possibly, this is the South Carolina of last year. Like, hey, we played all these teams. We had a pretty tough schedule. Vanderbilt. Whoever thought Vanderbilt had a chance to backdoor their way in the playoffs with a 10-2 season? I think if they lose, they're not going. But still 9-3 incredible season under Diego and Clark. Clarkley and all them, but versus Tennessee, they're playing in Neyland. Tennessee they lost to Oklahoma, lost to Bama late or midseason, lost to Oklahoma earlier this month. So what are we seeing from this game to possibly, and the only reason why I say this is because I said Vanderbilt look like Vanderbilt. It's a long shot, but Vanderbilt could possibly fight, be in the mix, in conversation for a playoff spot. So what do we think about this as we close this? This is the last one, so.
I would really love for Vanderbilt to walk away from this game with a win, and make it a really tough argument for them to make the playoffs. That's honestly what I really want. As we go throughout like this whole season, now that we're at the end of the season, we played a couple teams, and at some points you don't like them because it's their week. But then every other week I'm okay with them, and this is another week that I'm okay with Diego continuing this masterful run. I mean, I talked about it a couple weeks ago. We had a guy from our own home city that played there, so at some points, you get a little like, all right, I feel a little bit for him, and this is one of those spots for me where I want to see Vanderbilt be successful. So, and then I just don't like Tennessee. So that's what matters more.
That's really that. Yeah.
I was saying, to be honest, that's really what it is. So, I'd love to see Vanderbilt. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. This is what we talk about when we talk about the 12-team playoffs. Vanderbilt in the second one. SMU was in it last year. Indiana was in it last year. We talking about teams that otherwise would never see the light of day in a playoff situation.
Boise State. Yeah.
So it would be really good to see Vanderbilt cross over into that territory. So,
I'm going Vandy upset.
Yeah, I guess that's my prediction. Yeah.
I got Vandy upset, like you said, mainly because of the, the hatred for Tennessee, and like I said, wanting to see Vanderbilt, kind of like spark a debate amongst the committee to where they could possibly land in the playoffs. So I don't know who's ahead of them. Then I know, you get the group of 5, they get that automatic 12 spot, no matter where they're at. It's deserving, so they're gonna make that one spot for them. The free space on the bingo card for them. So there's that. But what you got for this fan? Like I said, this is pretty much the final segment.
Yeah, well, I don't like Tennessee either, but Vanderbilt's not gonna beat Tennessee. I just don't see it. Diego Pavia, had a good run, but they'll still go to a bowl, but they're not going to the playoffs. I just don't see it. Even if they do go, I see them losing in the first round if they do make it. But nah, Vanderbilt just really don't really impress me for it. That's why I'm not really.
I don't know.
So, not really.
Yeah, because they they just one of them teams is just like, yeah, but it works for them.
Yeah, it works.
So that's why they play the way they. Same as Georgia Tech when they're not getting pushed around. They run the same similar. That's why I say you hold a mirror up or do the Spider-Man meme. They pointing at each other because they are exactly the same type of quarterback, very mobile. Power spread offense. Want to control clock, don't move all fast. So yeah, but like I said, I do want to see that. And then we get to that point of the year where a lot of teams can play like Auburn. Just imagine Auburn playing spoiler. A lot of teams can play spoiler. A lot of teams, like I said, Michigan, Ohio State is pretty much win or lose. They pretty much, we know where they're going. So it's just only thing with them is just they don't have bragging rights for a 5th year in a row. So it's just but this is the essence of college football rivalry weekend. So, and this is pretty much all we got, as far as the Elephant in the Room show. And like I said, we already covered Let Me Say This, the OG show. Nice to have Finn on there. So we already had his birthday, but once again, happy birthday to you, Finn. We're going to say it once again on this show. This is your show, the home show for you. So there's that. And I don't have any more closing remarks. If you guys want to, close anything out. What about you, Finn, with Bama State? Turkey Day Classic? We roll.
Oh, yeah, man. We in the building tomorrow.
That ain't even going to be a game.
They playing Miles again, Stillman or whoever?
Play Tuskegee. Tuskegee sucks.
Yeah, Tuskegee ain't no
Let's
more.
go,
So
baby.
they hadn't even advertised the games real. That's how bad Tuskegee is. So they had a little parade, gonna play a little game, everybody gonna eat, but it's not gonna be close. So Bama State, I they gonna win by at least 35.
Yeah. Damn.
If they put BTH or A&M is better than
Yeah.
C, I know they.
I get that.
Woo.
I get that. What about you,
But
G?
nah, I ain't gonna waste my time like that.
Got any closing remarks? One time for
Nah, man.
my greatest creation.
Yeah. Huh.
Nah, but go ahead.
Nah, man. I mean,
Sad ass
the
baby
most
daddy.
important
No,
game is the next game is the most important game, and that's all that really matters. Is a 1-0 mindset and beating the Auburn Tigers, man. Hopefully, I can be in the building for it. I guess we're gonna see.
About nothing but the Tide.
And that's gonna do it, man.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I want to say, hey, I know we don't really cuss on this show, but guess what?
I've been doing this.
This probably gonna be the attention grabber. This gonna be the link that I officially share, like when I put it out. But I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Fuck them trees, roll Tide, and we out.